Let's dive in. So our very first recipe that we wanted to make with this group that we introduced in our book launch party, and we want to go in more detail here.
We do, and you know, I think it's the winter spice. I think overall that was the favorite of our group when we all taste tested it. There was this almost like, wow, up throughout the room, right? It just filled the space with this holiday, you know, energy and memories. That's what everyone was saying. It was like, oh, this is so holiday. And so we want to make it now because you need to have it ready for you next holiday season.
Yep, and we're almost out.
That's the thing, is that I did not make enough. I did not know how good this was going to be. And so I'm going to actually double this recipe as we make it together because I need more for my own baking and uses. And then also I want to give it to some of my friends with certain recipes, cinnamon rolls and other things. Even like a little tea setup that I like to give to one of my friends. I want to put a little bit of this extract that she can add to her chai lattes. So I want a little bit more because just the recipes making 8 ounces just wasn't enough. Yeah.
So should we go to work?
Yeah, but before we go to work, I want you to start thinking of questions or comments that you want to leave. If you've made something similar to this, as we're going through the process, I want you to leave some comments of maybe some ingredients that you like to add or some pitfalls that maybe you ran into. And as we go through the recipe, I think some of these, questions and comments and things you want to share will just kind of pop up.
They'll all pop up, and we'll leave this raw, unedited version of the video in our book club group so anyone can come back and they can see the comments. So it'll always be present, and that's, again, one of the perks of being in the book club group is you can go back and read all the comments and you'll see what everyone said about each one of these recipes as we make them. But we would love to hear what you did to change it and applications.
Applications.
Yes.
Yes. And, in the beginning of all the recipes in the book, we usually list about 3 or 4 different applications that you can use these recipes in. So if you have even more things that you've tried it in, that would be so fun to share here.
Yep. So Debbie Bennett, yes, any bean can be used. Mary Elizabeth Turberg added, hi Mary, added cardamom to hers, which absolutely is a great add.
Yeah.
Those are great examples of how you make each one of these your own. Mm-hmm. And this one, the applications we list in our book were the hot cider, the pumpkin spice drinks, savory wintertime dishes. Like this is what surprised everyone. Yams, like sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Ham. You can drizzle some of this vanilla over your ham, and it adds like a little bit of sweetness into that glaze over your ham. And then all the baked goods, the cakes, the chocolates, the bread rolls, and then the coffee.
I'm loving it in the chai tea latte right now. Yeah. I don't think I left the house on Sunday. I cuddled up with a nice snuggly blanket with a good book and a nice chai latte, and I was in heaven adding just a titch of this.
Just a little drop or two, and it's really, really good. So hot cider, those are all great things. So yeah, keep any other things that you would add it to. Put those in the comments because it's great stuff. So let's go ahead. Should we make it?
Yes, let's make it. Okay, so the first step is we're going to place the beans in the jar. So the beans that I have, and the recipe says 1/2 ounce of Indonesian beans and 1/2 ounce platifolia and 1/2 ounce of tahitensis. We wanted to do this so we could add kind of the smoky, earthy part of the planifolia and then that fruity part of the tahitensis. So what we've chosen is we're doing Ugandan for the planifolia and our Colorado Ecuadorian for the tahitensis. And both of those I think will add just a lovely combination. We have many, many, many beans that are planifolia, and we have many beans that are tahitensis. Choose your favorite.
Choose your favorite. You can look at the taste chart in our book to see how they all taste if you're unsure, but choose your favorite, and decide which beans you think would be best based on your own flavor profile. Also, we'll get texts. You'll see me looking at the phone because there's so many comments. We just want to thank Teresa. She's on right now moderating, and so you'll see Teresa. A lot of you met Teresa in our book club party. So she's texting us some of sort of the high point comments as well, so we'll be checking phones.
We're hoping not to miss it.
So we don't miss, a lot of the important questions that might pop up. So thank you, Teresa, for your help today as well. Everyone can say hello to Teresa. Hi, Teresa.
And this is our first book club, live. And so we're going to want to improve it. We're going to get better at it. But this is the first time where we're trying to really have more of a dialogue with you guys.
So one of the questions that came up is and we'll get to this. Maybe I'll wait. I'm going to wait till we get to the star anise. Stop me, and we'll have a conversation about that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so since I'm doubling this, I have an ounce of Ugandan beans and I have an ounce of the Ecuadorian Colorado beans.
Yep.
So I love the seeds in my extract. The more seeds, the better. But I also like being able to have seeds later for ice creams and other things that I can, maybe get out of my mother jar, or even in the jar itself at the end, I can slice open and get some of those. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to tie. Thank you, Starlet, for teaching us this method because I love it. Just tie it and it fits into the jar just perfectly. And so I'm going to tie a few of them, but for the most part, I want to just cut them into small pieces.
And we won't spend a lot of time talking about the whys, but in our book, there's a whole section on cutting, slicing, knotting, all the different tricks. And so you can go and read that section to see which way is right for you, but there are pros and cons to each. But we like having some of the whole beans left over when we're done to be able to sort of squeeze the caviar out to use it. You can squeeze it out like a ketchup, pouch that you get at a fast food joint.
It kind of comes out like that. Yeah.
And then we also like to have tons of caviar at the base of the jar.
I love the very end. That's the best part.
Exactly. So,
sad though, because it's over, right?
So we like having all of that caviar. We like getting the speckles in our extracts as well. And so we have a lot of fun with both. So
now you can slice it down the middle. When I cut them in the little pieces, I find that I get just as many extract, seeds coming out of it the same. Once it gets absorbed, all those seeds come out when I cut them too. So whatever you prefer. And it depends on the size of your jar too, how small you cut them. I love this jar. This is our Elena jar. I think it's pretty. I like to collect different kinds of jars. But also, it has kind of a wider mouth, and with the ingredients that I'm putting in here, these will come in and out really easy. If I were going to be doing like a fruit extract or something that had bigger pieces, I would pick something with a wider
like a
mouth.
Mason jar or something like that.
You can do, canning jars, mason jars,
So while you're cutting those and putting them in, is it okay if I talk about jar size for a minute?
Yeah.
Because it's really important. So this is a 16 ounce jar. We're trying to make 16 ounces worth of extract. A couple of things on jars that are really important. We talk about this throughout the book, but one is if you're making an extract that has lots of ingredients like this, you're going to displace a lot of spirit. And so the water level or the alcohol level is going to rise and rise with every ingredient that you put in. And you may not get all 16 ounces in the jar. If you use just like a 16 ounce jar, you fill it with ingredients, and then you're trying to pour in that 16 ounces of alcohol, you may not get it all in. So a couple points on that. Point number one, if you don't get it all in, it's better to have a little bit more ingredient and a little less spirit. If you're going to err on the side of having more ingredients and maybe a little less spirit, that's okay. You're still going to get a great extract. It'll just be even a little more concentrated. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to shy away from ordering a jar that says 16 ounces or 8 ounces, and here's the reason why. When jar bottle manufacturers put the size of their jars in their marketing, they list the minimum the minimum fluid content that goes within. They all hold more. So before we actually did a trial on the 16 ounce Elena to see how much it held, and the alcohol went up to right about there. There's probably 17 and a half to 18 ounces of alcohol that fits inside of a 16-ounce jar. So there's a little more room than you think when you're actually filling it up. So a couple of points on that. Number one, if you buy an 8-ounce jar and you fill it with beans and then you just pour in 8 ounces of spirit, you might actually be pouring in 9 ounces of spirit if you're just filling it to the top. So measuring your spirit before you put it in is always important, because if you think you have an 8-ounce jar but it really holds 9 or 9.5 ounces worth of fluid, you're going to have too much spirit and maybe not enough ingredients. And so it's always wise to make sure that you measure the alcohol before you put it in. And so in our case, we did that with this jar, and we know that we can get 16 ounces in this one. It's going to be close with all the stuff in there.
It's going
to go very, very close
to the top.
So the point is that 16-ounce jars hold a little more than 16 ounce, and 8-ounce jars hold a little more than 8 ounce. And so make sure you're measuring your alcohol when you put it in, and don't just look at the size of the jar as sort of your point where you're saying, I'll just fill this up and I have exactly 8 ounces.
That's something we learned.
That's something that we've learned even recently, and it's just not always the case, that they do hold a little bit more. So just make sure that you measure
just
it.
Measure it, yeah. And then also always measure your beans, right? We know this. This is one of the pitfalls people will run into, is they'll ask, how many beans do I put in this recipe? And all of our recipes, of course, are done by weight with the beans. So make sure you use one of your kitchen scales to measure out your beans, so you know you're actually getting what you think you're getting.
Bonnie just said she would use this in spiced cakes, ginger snaps, banana bread, and pumpkin pie. Yes, Bonnie. Oh my gosh. By the way, it's November 1st. I am so ready for holiday cooking, right?
I know.
It's time. Let's holiday cooking time.
I know. Well, we had family over for Halloween last night, and I made some pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Their absolute favorite. And they're like, we've been waiting for these all year.
We've been waiting. Well, yeah, that was so much fun. The house smelled like pumpkin spice again. It was just, it's wonderful.
It was actually my oldest son's girlfriend. She's like, I was wondering when these cookies were going to come.
I know, they were waiting. So we love it.
So the next thing, should we go on?
Yep, go back.
Okay, so the next thing on here is the nutmeg. Now I've already, for time purposes, I've already crushed it up, and it's included with our allspice berries and our star anise. But make sure when you are crushing the nutmeg that you're either covering it with a dish towel like we say in the book, or putting it in a Ziploc or whatever. Use a kitchen mallet, hammer. I used a spoon rest one day because that's all I had. It worked.
It works.
But make sure it's covered, because I've tried to do it really quickly and not cover it, and then the pieces end up all over the floor, and then I have to use the 5-second rule and pick it all up and shove it in there. So if you cover it...
We almost had to use the 5-second rule again.
I know.
There you go.
So if you cover, it'll just make it easy. So we've got 2 whole nutmegs, because we're doubling.
Yep.
And then we've got 2 teaspoons of allspice berries and 2 teaspoons of the star anise.
So this is the question where I wanted to talk about it. Since star anise comes whole, how do you know what 2 teaspoons is? Because it's hard to put like a star inside of a teaspoon and know exactly what it is.
Yes.
So how do you do that? I think in our case, we just look at it and we kind of guesstimate how much it is, because we don't pulverize it to make like a powder to scoop it up.
No.
We just we can't really say a count, because you'll see that, like, pull up a tiny one and then pull up.
I also make sure that they have the little seeds in there. Some of them, they're huge, but some of them might not have the seeds in them.
Yeah.
If I have larger ones, I kind of just eyeball it.
Because these are 2, so if we said like 4 stars, if they're this size, that might be correct, but if they're this size, that may not be correct.
Yeah.
And so we kind of eyeball
do something
it
in the middle of that.
Yeah, so we kind of eyeball it in the. I mean, what do you think the average would be in terms of number of stars per teaspoon?
Probably. Well, it depends on how big. Because I've got these tiny little ones, and I've put 2 in already.
Yeah. So
I've had a total of 6 in 2 teaspoons.
Yeah. So roughly about 3 star anise would be maybe a teaspoon on average. But again, if they're big, you're going to want to go 2. And the other is the star anise is the real strong spice. And so here in fact, this is a good point that we want to talk about. If you're a little hesitant on the star anise, start on the lighter end, maybe put in 1 or 2 stars, and then in a month, as you're smelling it, If you're sensing that it's not enough and you're not picking up that scent that you're looking for, then go ahead and throw another one in. And when you pull one out, you can put a new one in and let it go for another month as well.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like zero in on the level that's right for you. But if we had to like pick an average, it's going to be like 2.5 to 3 stars when you pulverize it. That's roughly what a teaspoon would be.
Unless you have really big ones.
Unless you have really big ones.
Yeah.
So let's see what they say. So someone else, LaDawn's like, I just crushed my my star anise in bags, just like we do with the nutmeg. So that's really good
and it probably
idea.
fits into the jar better.
Yeah. And so Bonnie's saying 2 to 3. So just like us, that's been our experience. So there's lots of ways to go about it. But again, the where you want to err when you're extract making is on spices and things like this. Go kind of soft at first, because you can always add more. If you go super strong, you can't remove it.
Yeah.
And it's harder then you've got to add more alcohol, and you're trying to dilute it. And then when you add more alcohol, you've got to add more of the other ingredients. So it's super easy if you start light and you're just not smelling enough of it, go ahead and add another one in for another month. Yeah. And if you start heavy, you're kind of stuck with it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So go light at first, and you've got a whole 12 months to kind of play with it, right?
Yeah.
So, after that first month, you can kind of, if you can't smell a lot of the star anise, maybe you add a little bit. And I guess it depends on how much you like star anise as well.
Star anise, what does this say? Added to infused maple, I just missed it, maple syrup. Oh my gosh, yes. How fun is that? Yep, and you guys are making me hungry, says Kathy. Yes, exactly. Star anise can be overpowering, and yes. Julie just agreed. Yes, it really can, and that's where we would just err on the side of caution. Mm-hmm. Start small, go bigger as you'd like. It's overpowering, but when it blends into those vanilla beans after a year, it's the most amazing thing that you'll ever try. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. Also, so the last thing is we're adding the cinnamon sticks. We're adding 2 because, again, I'm doubling. I like to just put it into little pieces here. And these break up. They smell so lovely when you break them.
They're wonderful.
It smells like Christmas in here, doesn't it?
They are. We actually just met with our Sri Lankan cinnamon farmers. They were just kind of in town nearby just last week, and they are so proud of the way that they make the cinnamon, the thin cuts of bark, the way that it folds, the way that it dries, the way they roll, and even though it's thick, how you can just break it. Like the Ceylon cinnamon is just such a there's so much history and pride to the cultivation of that kind of cinnamon. That was really fun, just talking to them and meeting with them. They'd flown in from Sri Lanka, and they're there, and their eyes just are open, and they want to hear all the stories about how people are using their cinnamon in our extracts and in our book. And I can tell you there's just so much pride in these farmers who love this product that they produce. And that's Ceylon special. It's good stuff.
And it was so fun meeting them. We have a lot of different farmers, and it's impossible to go to them and meet them. And so
meet them all, yeah.
Yeah, so we can meet some of them, but some of them will
fly into town,
fly into the into the States, and we can meet them at conventions and personally sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to put faces to
it really is
to the places. So
that was fun. So this cinnamon special. So we really love the Ceylon cinnamon, and they actually introduced us to some new kinds of cinnamon called Alba. And it's a real interesting cinnamon, so more to come there. We'll see if we can maybe get some and put it on our website, because it's really interesting the way they make it out of Sri Lanka. So more to come there.
Also, depending on how much you like cinnamon, it also can be overpowering. And so that's something that you want to take into account, is how much cinnamon are you wanting in this recipe, because some people just want a hint of it. You don't want it to be cinnamon forward or star anise forward. You want all of those to kind of blend, and we all have different tastes. So this is going to be something that you're going to need to check at all these different points in the book. Where is the recipe at, and are you liking it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there we go. Now, what does that look like? Look at that full bottle of ingredients. One, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. You've got all those wonderful things in there. It smells amazing already.
Yeah.
The whole kitchen smells like cinnamon and vanilla and star anise, all of those things. Now, the vodka that we chose is Rain Cane vodka. We love this. So it's kind of a mid-price vodka. They source the water for this vodka out of Alaska. So it's really pure, but it's a vodka that's actually made with sugar. and it still qualifies as a vodka because of the temperature that it is distilled at. So it's a real fascinating thing, but we love it because it's sort of a tasteless vodka, but has a sugar base. And so it's kind of like a rum, but it isn't. And so it's just a little bit sweeter maybe than regular vodka. So we're big fans of Rain Cane vodka. They do a really, really good job. So we're adding the 16 ounces, right?
Yeah.
That was 8.
Yep.
And then we're going to add the others.
I'm using this 1 cup measuring cup only because it's my very favorite. And I think I got it at Walmart.
There you go.
But it pours perfectly. There's no dribbling or anything. And so I love, well, see, now I dribbled.
Now you dribbled as you're saying it.
Gosh,
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like,
I know.
never dribbles when I say that. And
We got set up.
anyways, I know, seriously.
So some of you like Rain Cane, Lori. It's way smoother than white rum. I mean, Lori, that's kind of been our experience. It's a new one. It wasn't in our book. We've discovered it since publishing the book, but it's a new one that we have really grown to like appreciate because it is really, really yummy. And so there we go. Oh my gosh.
Now I'm going to take, I've got just a touch left here. I wanted to be able to see it. There we go.
There we go. And then we cap it off, close it.
So this is a 16-ounce bottle, but it holds a little bit more than 16 fluid ounces. So we wanted to make that point that even though the bottle may say 60 ounces, make sure you measure the alcohol, and then you may be able to use a little vibrato. I mean, how gorgeous is that? I could give this as a gift right at Christmas time with a thing of cinnamon rolls and say, and the recipe, and they can make it next year. You know, I mean, it's just gorgeous.
That right there is such a beautiful point. Let me kind of hold it up kind of in the center so you can kind of see the light come through there. You know, we can get it a little closer to the camera. You can kind of see. But this is absolutely by itself a beautiful Christmas gift that you don't have to wait. Now, obviously, giving a finished extract is great, but when you give a finished winter spice, it's dark and it looks like this. It looks like regular vanilla extract. It smells and tastes different, and it can be used right away. When you give something like this that is just beginning, it's interesting, and then you can include some instructions on how to change out the spices. It's kind of an interactive gift
it's interactive, and then you're creating maybe an extract friend who wants to join you now.
Yes.
And you'll see in our book that most of the illustrations are before you add anything to it, because we wanted you to be able to see all of the different beautiful ingredients that go into these extracts. The finished extract just, you know, it's yummy, but it just doesn't photograph as well. So if you want to give a beautiful gift, it might be fun to give it at the very beginning with, you know, that recipe you used it in.
So another interesting insight is, I mean, we're really going deep. That's the point of this group. So we're kind of taking all this to a whole other level. I mean, we've been talking now for like 30 minutes and we're just one extract in. But you'll notice when you first put this in, all of the allspice and the star anise and others, they want to float to the top. So when you're using like a canning jar, a mason jar that has a big open neck, they're all going to float to the top and they're kind of going to be bouncing along the surface. One of the benefits of using like a slightly closed neck is there's only a little bit that makes it to the top and the rest are held underneath. And so the more surface area contact with the alcohol, the faster it's going to extract. It's not bad that they're on the surface. They're not going to mold on the surface. We've never had that happen. So they're fine if you are using a canning jar or a canning jar. But if you're using something with a little bit more of a narrow neck, you can kind of see in the light there, you'll see that gap of air where the vanilla beans are down low. They don't float. Some of the smaller cinnamon pieces are trying to float. And then making its way to the top is all of the allspice and the star anise, but it's held under
nutmeg,
and the nutmeg, but it's held underneath the alcohol because the neck's a little bit smaller. Yeah. So that's another important thing that you ought to consider when you're making it.
And you can always use the weights that you know people use in fermentation. You can use those.
Justin Barrett just said that.
Oh,
yep, exactly.
So you can use those weights, and I use those often when I'm doing fruit extracts and things. So that's an option too.
Yep. A couple of really good questions that have come up since Rain Cane vodka uses sugar. Does it take a little longer to extract like sometimes a white rum will? Our experience is no. Our experience is that it acts just like vodka.
Yeah.
Again, It's distilled at a higher temperature. It still is, it's vodka. By definition, it's vodka. So it's still really pure, really clean, really light tasting. But instead of coming from a grain or potatoes or whatever, it's coming from sugar, or sugar like molasses, or, you know, things that come from sugar. Cane juice, sugar cane juice. And so it's just a little cleaner and has a little hint of sweetness. So the quick answer, no. In our experience, you can still do a rain cane vodka, and it's done in 12 months. So, and then there was another question, I think, just to make sure we get them all. Does it take longer? Since rain cane has sugar, does it have on the extraction? It's just a little sweeter. Just has a hint of sweetness. Not much, but enough that we really like it. We're fans of rain cane. Great company.
And again, you can use different alcohols here. If you think a rum would be nice in here, or a spiced rum would be nice in here. You know, has anybody tried anything else with something similar like this in bourbon?
Yeah.
Or, you know, do you have any experience in trying different alcohols and these type of extracts with the holiday spices?
Yeah, Lori Lanford makes the point that though it doesn't have as much of a taste as rum does, and you're spot on, Lori, it doesn't. It really is vodka, but just that sugar base, which we really like. Moonbabe's using a white rum, which is beautiful. A spiced rum for this would be beautiful, but it would take a little bit longer. You know, you're probably up in the 18-month range. What kind of vodka did you use, please? We use the Rain Cane. It's sitting right there. It's called Rain Cane vodka. And it's, if you go to the top 10 vodkas on our website, VanillaPura, we've got a list that we keep updated of top 10. It changes as we discover new ones. Rain Cane wasn't on that list, 6 months ago, but as we've started now getting vodka or extracts that are finished with the Rain Cane, we've really liked it. So Rain Cane has kind of climbed the list. Svedka, I think, is still our number one as like a mid-shelf, great vodka. Tito's has been good
as well. Both those are very well-known vodkas. You can find them in almost any liquor store, and they're a nice middle of the shelf that just are fine for extracts.
Yep.
Also, we need to taste this.
Well, we're going to do the taste test. I think we're getting all of the summaries here. We just want to have some communication with everyone. Bourbon, Diane, you're spot on. Bourbon would be great for this one.
You do have to plan ahead because it does take at least 18 months for that bourbon to settle in, sometimes even longer than that. Have you guys found out that it takes even longer than 18 months? What have you found
with the
using
bourbon?
Your bourbon?
Yeah, with the bourbon it probably would. Julie's talking about Papa Pilar's rum, which is fantastic. Lori makes an extract she calls her Cozy Vibes, which is close to this, but has cardamom and coffee beans.
I love
and
the
she
name.
uses, I love the name, and she uses bourbon, says it was delicious. And yeah, people are commenting, Lori, the Cozy Vibes sound great.
Ooh.
Yes, it does sound great. The name alone, Lori, sounds really fun. So, love it. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes left. We wanted to do something in this group. As you'll recall, in the other group, we would always highlight our top 10 contributors. We can't do that in this group because there's not like publishing that's happening of different posts. But we certainly wanted to highlight some of our top experts or contributors, even in the other group, or people that are making like a big impact on our group. And lots of people are commenting to us, and their names like come up regularly as people that have been very helpful in helping them with extracts or in directing them or giving them guidance and feedback. And we've got a little gift that we wanted to give. Let's see here. Make sure my cord there is in place. We're all wired up here. We wanted to give a extract making kit to one of our great contributors. Now, obviously, everybody watching deserves this. But so we kind of had to pick one because we like doing giveaways in these lives. It's always just kind of fun.
Well, it's a kit with the book too. So if you already have a book, and many of you do, this is all ready to go for Christmas if you want to give it to a gift for someone, or if you just want to keep it for yourself and have a backup, you can do that too.
So it's you've seen the pictures online. It's just this beautiful little gift box. It ships in another box, so the gift box arrives nice and clean. You can put a bow on it. It goes right underneath the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Super easy. When you open it up, it opens nice and neat and easy. And on top,
the book.
We'll kind of hold it up, is the book. And so you can remove the book. And then underneath is an ounce of vanilla beans. And then back here is a bottle. And so it's a full, complete extract making kit. It's an awesome gift. If someone is interested in starting extract making, it is like the perfect thing to get for them.
It is.
So,
well, even if they're just bakers, you know, you can introduce them into this extract making world, and it could, you know, really change their life. Like
it
us,
really
right?
could. So we wanted to give this very first gift to Justin Barrett. Justin has been such a big force within our group, the Making Vanilla Extract by VanillaPura. He's just an amazing guy with tons of experience, gives great feedback, great advice.
I love his advice, even for taking his pictures. He shows us his background things he does, and you're just full of fun information, and you're always willing to share it. So
which we appreciate.
Thank you so much.
He sent a couple of really cool recipes. We're going to be publishing those recipes on our blog here shortly.
Yep.
And so we'll be in touch with you, Justin, about that. But thank you, Justin, for being you, for all of your contribution. You really have just made our group even more special. And it's because of people like you, you know, that our group is what it is today. And everybody who is in this group that we're talking to live right now has been and still are a Justin. You know, that you're all just wonderful for all the same reasons. And you all have these moments where all of a sudden, you know, all the spotlight is on you, like Julie Provost, you know, at the book launch party. There she is, and the spotlight's on Julie, and Mary Turberg, and the spotlight's on Mary, and Starlet. We're at her farm, and the spotlight's on Starlet in her vanilla room, and Lori and Michelle doing lives, and Krista Howard. So it just, the way it works with this group is that at one point or another, the spotlight shines on all of us, and we just wanted to recognize Justin and say thanks. The spotlight's kind of been on you for the last little while because of your great content feedback. So thank you, Justin. You're wonderful. We're glad to have you.